Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday night, and we are here with Paranormal Lens. My name's Chad Thomas, and that way is Jamie Widener. Every week I get it wrong.
Every week. Yep. Good
Um,
evening.
Good evening. We are with Jott-Nyx Paranormal, and we are here to talk about something paranormal this week. But before we get to that, Jamie, what's going on?
Oh, sorry, it's been a busy week, but life is good. Can't tell you what's happened, but stuff happened.
Uh huh.
Everything's a blur. So happy to be here. I'll tell you that. This is the one thing, and I hope others feel the same way. But I look forward to Tuesdays because this is that nice break from the monotony of the normal things we do. The things are important to do. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
but it's nice to have that. Thing to look forward to. So, and especially this one because I know a little bit about this topic tonight, but I don't know a lot about it. And I've actually been to the place, which is weird that I don't know a whole lot about it. But
Okay.
um, so I'm excited to see what you got. So before we get there, what's going on with you? How you been?
Busy. Just lots of stuff going on. I guess we had a holiday in this past week, didn't we?
Oh yeah, we did. That's
And
right.
a holiday that involved food, so I can't believe we both forgot that.
Well, it's I can't speak for you, but my industry, we had a work day on Friday, and I'll tell you that it's the first time I did a Black Friday as a working day, probably 16, 17 years. So that made it kind of forget it right away. And then you
Mhm.
hop into the weekend, you do the stuff you do over the weekend. It didn't feel like there was that full long break. Like the kids, they were off school on Wednesday and they didn't go back till today. So it was
Right.
like a 6-day holiday in there. I mean, you could have took a cruise in that time,
Uh-huh.
like a nice long one. So I don't know. I miss being a kid, I guess.
Uh-huh. Well,
Yeah, me.
I have to admit we do get Friday off. Now, a lot of times we end up working that day if we're behind,
Hey, Bert.
yeah, we did have that Friday off, so that was nice.
Nice, nice.
I mean, especially coming off of a long, busy stretch, it was nice to have a couple of days to unwind. So,
Absolutely. It's been a little crazy with family stuff this past couple weeks. So,
mhm.
like a nice little break is good.
So yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, you're
So
recharged, ready. You had plenty of time to investigate this topic, right? Right?
yeah. No, I did have a little bit more time on this one than I typically take, so
Awesome.
they were good. And I
Well,
do want
thank
to give you a heads up. We may not see as many comments. For some reason, I was trying to jump in somebody else's show earlier, and Facebook was acting really weird. So we will see
well, we
what's
see it. Bert Lynch is with us. So, welcome, Bert. Thanks for coming.
so.
Um,
Anyway,
so, who makes it? Okay.
so let's jump in. Tonight I'm going to be talking about the Birdcage Theatre. So, what you said you know a little bit, but if you think of Tombstone, Jamie, so apparently you've been to Tombstone.
I
What do you
have.
think of with
I'm a
Tombstone?
former Arizonian, so you have to go to Tombstone. Like,
Okay.
it's a rule. It came with the handbook when I moved into the state. You go to the DMV, you trade over your license plate, you get a new license, all that stuff. They hand you the book of things you have to do,
Uh huh.
and Tombstone's in chapter 2.
Okay.
So
And you were in what part of Arizona?
I lived technically in a place called Awatuki, but it's Phoenix
Gotcha.
proper,
Yeah.
but it's the southeast side of the city.
Okay. Okay. So you're a ways away. So
It was a drive, that's for sure. Yep.
all right. So well, anyway, let's jump into the Birdcage.
Some would say it was a road trip. Do I get first
You
count
got
on this
road
one?
trip. Yep. Yep. You
4
did.
minutes 30 seconds.
So congratulations, you got that one this week, Jamie. So anyway, nestled in the town of Tombstone, Arizona, the Birdcage Theater stands as a memorial to the untamed spirit of the Wild West. Built in 1881 during the height of Tombstone's silver mining boom, the Birdcage was much more than a theater. It was a saloon, a gambling den, a brothel, and an entertainment hub all rolled into one. The establishment served as a social and cultural respite for miners, cowboys, outlaws, and lawmen. Today, it exists as both a museum and one of the most famously haunted locations in the United States, captivating history buffs and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Tombstone was founded in 1877 by prospector Ed Schieffelin, who discovered silver in the region despite warnings that he would only find his own tombstone in the dangerous Apache controlled territory. Defying the odds, Schieffelin's discovery led to one of the richest silver strikes in U.S. history. The town of Tombstone grew rapidly, attracting young opportunists. By the 1880s, Tombstone had become a thriving boomtown with a population of over 7,000 people, complete with saloons, dance halls, and gambling parlors. Despite its wealth, the town was also a hotbed of lawlessness. Rivalries between lawmen and outlaws, such as the famous Earp brothers and the Clayton Cleary gang, created a volatile atmosphere. The town's most famous event, the gunfight at the OK Corral, took place on October 26, 1881. This deadly showdown between the Earps, Doc Holliday, and the Cowboys cemented Tombstone's place in Western lore. However, as the silver mines began to flood and the boomtown economy declined, Tombstone's population dwindled, leaving behind a rich history and numerous ghost stories. Tombstone is often referred to as one of the most haunted towns in America. The violence, hardship, and untimely deaths that marks its history have left an imprint on the town, with numerous sites claiming paranormal activity. These sites include Boot Hill Cemetery, a historic graveyard, which is the final resting place for many who met violent ends, is alive with ghostly sightings. Visitors report seeing such shadowy figures, hearing disembodied voices, and feeling unexplained cold spots near the graves. Next on our list is the OK Corral. This is where, according to Arizona ghost towns, Tombstone's most famous gunfight happened and is still said to be haunted by the spirits of those who died in the shootout. Apparitions of men in 19th century attire and the sounds of gunfights are often heard. We can't forget about Big Nose Kate's Saloon. It was once the Grand Hotel. This saloon is haunted by a spirit named the Swamper, believed to be a former handyman who guards his hidden stash of silver. Patrons and staff report hearing footsteps, seeing objects move, and experiencing cold drafts. These hauntings, combined with the town's colorful history, make Tombstone a magnet for paranormal enthusiasts, historians, and curious travelers. Now, we aren't going to dig into those stories tonight. Instead, we're going to look at what in 1882, the New York Times called it the wildest night spot between Basin Street and the Barbary Coast, the Birdcage Theatre. Today, as you walk in the historic area of Tombstone and make your way to the corner of Allen and 6th Streets, you will find a two-story stone building. Welcome to the Birdcage Theatre. Today, the streets are calm, but in 1881, Tombstone streets were alive with activity. If you think it was lively outside, making your way through these doors would bring you into one of the most notorious establishments in the West. Built to cater to a diverse population of the town, the theater served as a saloon, brothel, and a place for gambling. Its unique birdcage balconies, small curtain rooms where ladies entertained clients, gave the establishment its name. These balcony rooms could be rented out for $25 a night. According to Cactus Atlas, one of these boxes to the left of the stage is rumored to have been rented out nightly for 2 years by someone who went by the name of Russian Bill. The story goes that he did not speak much English, but was fascinated by Western life and the rough and tough style of the cowboys. He was often teased as he was gentle of nature and not made of what it took to be one of them. Determined to prove himself, Russian Bill went to another county and stole a horse. He was eventually found and hung for his crimes. The Birdcage was infamous for its debauchery and violence. Open 24 hours a day, it was the scene of over 140 documented gunfights, earning its reputation as one of the most dangerous places in town. According to the theater's website, the walls and ceilings still bear the scars of the violence, with over 120 bullet holes serving as reminders of its turbulent past. The theater also hosted some of the era's most legendary entertainment, including performances by famed singers and comedians. Some of the entertainers that graced the stage include Mademoiselle de Granville. Her real name was Alma Hayes. Her act was the woman with the iron jaw. She would pick up heavy objects in her teeth. John H. Burns and Matthew Trayers were an Irish comic duo. Irene Baker was an Irish singer, and Carrie Delmar was an opera singer. Masquerade balls featuring cross-dressing performers were popular, as well as Cornish wrestling. Who doesn't like a good stage music? Who doesn't like a good stage magician? You could sometimes see one at the Birdcage. Unfortunately, one almost didn't survive. The story goes that he was performing a trick where he would catch bullets in his teeth. It was all going well until an audience member who was not part of the show challenged him. This probably was not the best act to perform in one of the wildest places in the West. Despite its artistic offerings, the Birdcage is best known for its basement poker game, which reportedly lasted 8 years, 5 months, and 3 days without interruption. It started in 1881 and ran through 1889. To join this game, you had to come up with $1,000 just to sit at the table. That would be about $30,000 today. There is no documentation as to what the stakes were or exactly what game was played, but it is reasonable to guess that it was a version of 5-card draw. If you had the cash to join the game, because credit was not accepted, you might find yourself sitting with some famous people from Western lore. This included Wyatt Earp, George Hearst, who was a businessman and politician, Adolphus Busch, who was the co-founder of Anheuser-Busch, Diamond Jim Brady, Bat Masterson, and Doc Holliday. Now, in case you were wondering, these people didn't sit in the game the entire time, but would come and go as they won and lost. Who knows how many other famous people sat around that poker table? How much money was exchanged? Estimates are that in the 8+ years that over $10 million went across the table. Now, keep in mind that this game included a 10% rake, which meant the house took $1 million, leaving $9 million between the players. If you converted that to what the house kept to today's terms, that would almost be $31 million today. So what caused the game to end and the theater to close? The town was built around silver mining. In the Grand Central Mine in 1882, miners hit water at 620 feet. At first, they could keep working with the aid of a 4-inch pump. Unfortunately, that wouldn't keep up forever. When the pump started to fail, they brought in a Cornish engine pump and set that up, and that allowed work to continue to 1886, when on May 26th, the central mine hoist and pump plant burned in a fire. Silver prices also decreased. When it hit 90 cents an ounce, the miners were laid off and the mines closed. The townspeople started leaving to find work elsewhere, which forced the Birdcage Theatre to close its doors in 1892. Everything was left inside, pretty much undisturbed. In 1929, Tombstone residents began a festival called Heldorado to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the founding of Tombstone. The Birdcage opened its doors for the festival and continued to open it for every festival after that. In 1934, it was leased out as a coffee shop. Today, the Birdcage operates as a museum. Remarkably, much of the theater remains unchanged, with original furnishings, decorations, and artifacts still in place. Guided tours focus on both the historical and paranormal aspects of the theater, drawing visitors from around the world. The theater is one of the few original buildings on Allen Street. Nighttime ghost tours provide a more immersive experience for those curious about the theater's haunted reputation. Participants often report strange occurrences during these tours, from unexplained noises to sightings of ghostly apparitions. With its history of debauchery, violence, and untimely deaths, the Birdcage Theatre is widely regarded as one of the most haunted locations in Tombstone. The theater has been the site of numerous paranormal investigations, including Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Lab, and Fact or Faked paranormal files. Some have captured compelling evidence of ghostly activity. So what has caused these spirits to stay in the theater? The 140 bullet holes and 26 recorded deaths may be part of it. So, in my research, I found a great website compiled by Ghost City Tours that listed several stories on it that I'm going to present tonight because it just was a good summary of all the things that I've found in different places. So we're going to start off with the Phantoms of the Western Frontier. Today, travelers and staff allege to see the specters of courtesans and cowboys even smelling cigars in the no-smoking saloon. Some claim to catch the whiff of whiskey whenever there's no one around. Melodies are played on phantom pianos. Laughter is overheard whenever the brothel is barren, and spectral stagehands are seen walking across the stage. Are these residual energies from the Western Frontier? Another story is about the ghostly woman in white. And I've noticed that they call a lot of things poltergeists here, but nothing was presented about poltergeist actual activity. The Birdcage Theatre's most peculiar poltergeist is the woman in white. The apparition is said to appear as a proper lady, a rarity for a brothel. One employee reported, "Almost everyone who works here has had an experience of some kind with the lady in white. I have seen her. She came down the stairwell and into the poker room. She wore a white dress and a white bonnet. She stood in front of me for a very long time without reacting to my presence at all. It's like she didn't even know I was there. She's what they call a residual haunt. No one has ever identified her, who she is. A bonnet indicates she was a proper woman, and no proper ladies ever came in here. Most of us who work here think she came in with the hearse and has been trapped here." Now, the hearse that they're referring to is a horse-drawn hearse that is part of the museum that is stored in the basement, and I believe it's in the basement, and was used to move people from the OK Corral to the graveyard. Cody Polstone of Haunted Tombstones believed that this is a woman named Michelle, an apparition who appeared in a photo taken by Donovan's Ghost Patrol in 2006. The image depicts a woman descending a staircase, gripping the hem of her dress tightly in her hand. Does Michelle lurk about, looking for Tombstone's Lady of the Night? The next story is a little interesting because it reminds me of a story that happened to a friend of ours recently, Jamie. It's called Strangulations at the Seance.
Okay.
In the 1980s, William Hunley conducted a seance at the Birdcage Theatre. Hunley was the proprietor at the time and hired a prominent psychic medium. She suspected that there was foul play about, likely from the poltergeist inhabiting the structure. During the seance, one spiteful spirit began to strangle William Hunley. Attendants were aghast, struck by frightful fits. The violence only ceased once the bustle broke the medium from her trance. William's neck was bruised for 6 weeks afterwards. Who was this strangling specter? Now, the person we know wasn't strangled, but they had definite bruises on their arm for a while. So, just found that interesting. The next story is about disappearing relics. Once an antique poker chip would appear and disappear, materializing only to vanish into thin air. Bill Hunley, son of William Hunley, began to lock the chip in a bank vault. He had hoped this would keep the relic safe. Yet, once a group of antiquarians came to authenticate the relic, the poker chip again disappeared. The relic only materialized once the this is an interesting word, antiquarians had left. Another story by Bill Clanton, an employee and descendant of the sharpshooter by the same name, claims that the spirits are always moving around in there. There's laughing and carrying on you can't explain. You can smell smoke around the dice table, I tell them. You can smell smoke around the dice table. I tell them, you leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. Clanton smiles, speaking of the property's poltergeist. Now, the last story from Ghost City Tours goes like this. The grisliest murder of the Birdcage Theatre involved two madams. One, Little Gertie the Gold Dollar, was employed at the Crystal Palace, a rival brothel. Margarita, her competing painted lady, was the belle of the Birdcage. In 1882, Billy Milgreen was caught entertaining the tall, dark, and willowy Margarita. Milgreen was a regular of Gold Dollar, Margarita's competitor. Some even alleged that Milgreen was Gold Dollar's live-in lover. Margarita wasn't afraid of the Gold Dollar, despite the Gold Dollar's reputation as a gutsy, gritty woman. Perhaps it was because of Gold Dollar's size. Gold Dollar was known as Little Gertie due to her petiteness. Did Margarita underestimate her rival of ill repute? Gold Dollar didn't attack Margarita until she crawled into Milgreen's lap. Gold Dollar felt slighted, thinking that Margarita had stolen a tried and true customer, or worse, that Margarita had stolen her man. Grabbing a handful of Margarita's hair, Gold Dollar stabbed her with a double-edged stiletto stashed in her garter. She hacked at Margarita's heart. It was a macabre moment, too morbid for the Gold Dollar to stick around. She fled the scene as soon as the marshals arrived. Little Gertie, the Gold Dollar, was eventually apprehended, yet was discovered without a weapon. Curiously, no charges were filed. If there were no murder weapon, there was no evidence, despite escorts, eavesdroppers, and eyewitnesses. Visitors alleged to see the murdered madam today, catching glimpses of this scandalous specter. One woman reported, "I saw an apparition of a young woman who opened the curtain. She was between the ages of 18 and 20. She was leaning on the balustrade, and when she looked at the balustrade, she seemed to say that the place was unoccupied and there was no one in the alcoves. She was only wearing a bloomer, so she stood out." Now, an interesting thing is they found the knife in behind the theater, and it was brought into the theater as a relic, and they believe that has energy stored in it and has created some hauntings as well. So, in summary, the Birdcage Theatre is more than a historic relic. It's a window into the spirit of the American frontier. It encapsulates the lawlessness, resilience, and creativity of a bygone era, while also serving as a reminder of the lives lost and stories untold. Tombstone's rich history and haunted location like the Birdcage Theatre ensure that the past is never forgotten. For those who visit, whether drawn by the history or the allure of the paranormal, Tombstone offers an experience that lingers long after the journey ends, a place where the Wild West truly comes to life. I want to cite some sources, Jamie, before we discuss this. The Arizona Ghost Towns, Tombstone, a city rich in history and hauntings, comes from ghosttowns.com. Birdcage Theatre official website, History and Ghost Tours, tombstonebirdcage.com. The Birdcage Theatre on wikipedia.com. The Haunted Birdcage Theatre on ghostcitytours.com, and our true and tried friend, Atlas Obscura. So, what do you think, Jamie?
Wow. It's an iconic place, Tombstone in general, and the Birdcage, of course, because of what it was and, well, still is. It's largely untouched. The one thing that strikes me with having been there is how far it really is from anywhere still. The world's smaller now than it ever was before. We are packed into places, Phoenix, Tucson's the closest city, big city anyway. And it's still a good drive down from there, so it's still out in the middle of nowhere. And it just showed what it could have been or would have been back in the day, like towns like this that had a draw to it, and I've lived across the Southwest in New Mexico as well. And, the silver mines were prevalent, and that was the reason people came. And of course, once people started to get some affluence, they started to get, well, silly, stupid, basically.
Right.
And then a lot of bad things went down, and it was hard for law enforcement because these were territories at the time. They weren't states yet, and the law was, well, it was law from the East, and it wasn't really enforced well because, there were sheriffs and, sheriffs and even deputies, but, these were people. These were, people who were voluntold, actually, in some cases,
Right.
to do this. And they didn't have a whole lot of gumption to stand up to the bad guys, because normally it meant a gunfight, and then there was inherent risk no matter what, in that situation. You don't know how many members of a gang are going to join in, and You found your town without a sheriff real fast, or
Right.
your territory without a sheriff. And that happens more than enough times, and nobody wants the job, So,
Right.
it's the mob mentality, and it wins in this case. So, the violence and all of the debauchery, it doesn't surprise me because it's what we would have devolved to. Um,
Hmm.
and again, there's no checks and balances because there's nothing close enough by for it to have weight against it to keep people straight. And
Right.
when you're on your own, you do whatever you want. So, um, the fact that it's a museum now is really cool.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think.
think, the fact that it was left fully, stocked, if you will, when it was closed out, and the territory is an arid, dry place, region. So, it's preserved the buildings all through Tombstone, all through the area as well, for that matter.
Hmm.
Um, with not having things falling down. This is a stone building, which is nice.
Right.
It's not a stick build, so it wouldn't have had any risk there. But
Yeah, but
uh,
I think that was the problem with a lot of the other buildings in the town. I
yeah,
think there was a fire that went through at one point.
yeah, it's not
So
so much. It's not like insects or termites or something like that chewing them apart. It's the fact that a fire takes everything. There's nothing. There's not much else out there, so that's what burns. The buildings go fast, and
hmm
you know it, it's what we do, right? It's how we had to do things. So, I understand all of that, but this helped keep the buildings safe and secure for all these 200 years of history, almost 200 years of history. Well, I'm sorry, 240, I guess by now. So
yeah.
it's a cool place, and it is, having been in it, it is really still, you get the feel of what it was, of the era.
Mhm.
A museums generally are not the place, right? There's some building that was built elsewhere, and then they brought relics in, and
Right.
displays and things like that. Having it be the building just makes it all the more cooler. And there's so much stuff that you can see. And walking around Tombstone, you get a feel. I mean, yeah, the OK Corral is a thing. Okay, sure. And we probably all saw the movie Tombstone by now. If you haven't, you really should.
Mhm.
It's a fun Western movie, from probably what, 90 something, 92, 94. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
forever old.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer has the role of his life as Doc Holliday, but and obviously it's sensationalized and Hollywoodized and all that stuff. But there is some history, the true history in the story,
Hmm.
and it shows the gangs, and it shows the struggle to keep law and order. Um, without a few intended people, it could probably been a whole lot worse than what it really was. With all the deaths and with
Right.
120 bullet holes in the place really surprises me. I expected to hear a whole lot more. You know,
Uh-huh.
um, but and the town's not that big, so this would have been the spot everybody landed in, which is makes sense.
Right.
They're the saloons of the era. Again, once you got some money, you know, you just went to the saloon. That's what you did. That was the social
Right.
hub. Even if you weren't there to do something stupid, you were still there to catch the news of the day and catch up on see the people you knew. They were all going to be there as well.
Hmm.
And a full house like that, with entertainment happening, all it's going to take is for one bad thing to go down, and there's victims, who are not part of the problem,
Right.
the original issue. So,
Hmm.
again, I'm surprised the death toll is not higher than it was.
Right. There was another story that I didn't put in here that talked about a woman whose act was walking on the ceiling.
Oh,
She had there were steel plates that were installed in the ceiling,
okay.
and she had special shoes that somehow she got up there and like would the
Moon
shoes
boot. Yeah,
would lock into the plates, and she would walk through the ceiling until they didn't one day,
yeah. Well, that's all it
and
takes, right?
she came crashing to the stage to her death. So
Gravity always wins.
yeah, so but yeah, there were all sorts of different types of entertainment that went through there. So
Would you say she was head over heels?
uh,
No, sorry.
eventually, yeah. Um, and we're not talking about a long time here.
No, really not. You're right.
Like,
I was thinking that the math, 1881 to 92, what, 11, 10, 11 years.
mhm,
I mean, that's a lot of time though, and for us, the mine itself,
mhm,
that's and being mined pretty much 7 days a week and very likely in multiple shifts a day. That mine was quite a load
right.
to hold out that long. A lot of these smaller veins, people moved in, they mined it for a year or two, they pull it dry, and then they're off to the
Mhm.
next thing. So
Well, here, and just I'm going to throw this back up. This is, this is a map of the different mines that were in the area. So it wasn't just one mine. It was
there's
quite a
quite a
few.
few. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, as you stretch out across the state of Arizona, and you get up toward Phoenix, you get into the Superstition Mountains, which pretty much runs straight through the middle of the state, center state. Another whole area there, where there were tons and tons of mines. And this strikes me that makes me think back to an episode. Something we should do as an episode, some other way, down the line, would be the Lost Dutchman mine as well,
okay.
which is in the upper, well, believed to be in the upper Superstitions. But it's one of those mines that is secreted. It's got people looking for it. It's got a curse against it. There's all kinds of stuff. People go out to find it and they don't come back. Claim jumpers get shot. I mean, it's not, maybe not as paranormal as it could be, but it might be a connection there. So I'll look into it.
Okay.
But yeah, this was again, that was another thing. When you find, when silver was found, claims were made, and
Uh-huh.
claims were staked, and claims had to be processed. And until it was officially a document, it was pretty much the literal Wild West, where you had to sit guard on your claim, or else somebody could come along and try to jump it on you.
Uh-huh.
And that's where a lot of violence occurred as well, simply because greed. Somebody
Right.
wants the money instead of you, and it was, and that's out in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. These aren't necessarily an exit off the road. There weren't roads to begin with, but um, it's not just like there's no blinking sign that says there's a mine up there.
Right.
So if you knew, you knew, and
Right.
hopefully you could guard it and keep it secret. And, that's why a lot of these minor, especially the small scale stuff, they were all independent people just walking around and looking for stuff. It's
Right.
maddening to think how, and in the heat of the summer, it's ridiculous out there. 120 degree days, and at night, it drops into the 50s, and you feel like you're going to freeze to death. So, my trip down was in the fall,
Okay.
and I was coming out of Phoenix, and I was wearing a t-shirt. I think I had jeans, and flip flops. And in 90 degrees or so when I left in, like, end of November,
Uh-huh.
until I got down there, it had dropped down into the 50s by the evening hours, and it was getting colder by the second. And I'm walking around shivering, thinking, what was I thinking?
Right.
Uh,
And there's no
and
Walmart where you can go buy more clothes
there
or
is absolutely nothing. Nope, nope. You got to bring it or you make it either way.
right.
Um, and that's another thing. The mercantiles that existed in these towns were really another huge profit center, because it is like the Walmart. They're going to carry a little bit of everything, and you're going to pay. And Walmart's supposed to be inexpensive, but these were premium pricings.
Right.
So the shop owners were also making a killing, because the saloons and the shops were really where things were happening.
Mhm.
Unless you could make it yourself, you had to buy it.
Right. Well, and that's funny because, they were drawn there to support the silver mining, but they were the one who were definitely going to make the profits. Silver mining was a hit or miss thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were a mercantile or a saloon or a brothel, you were guaranteed money because whatever money they had that they made, they were going to spend.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And again, a lot of times it was the saloons were, they were selling booze, and booze makes people make bad decisions. So, it goes the rest of it.
yeah,
Not that I've ever made a bad decision under the
definitely
influence
not.
of anything,
Yeah,
but
definitely
yeah,
not.
no, not me. Uh, oof. Stories there, sir. Someday.
Yeah.
Um, where are you at on this? I obviously you've done the research, so you have a lot more insight.
Um,
My time there was an afternoon.
uh,
I didn't get a chance to do everything. I certainly didn't see it all. Although it is, again, it's a small place
right.
as far as the town of Tombstone. But to spend the time, I probably could have been there for 2 days easily
Right.
to see everything in the detail. Um,
Well, if you have one day and 11 hours, we can get there.
yeah, I saw that earlier. So yeah, that's a road trip.
Right. So I mean, I would love to go explore. I would love to, I don't know. I didn't get into like what it takes to do a paranormal investigation there, if you can, or if you just sort of do it while you're touring it. I believe the tour is like $14, so it's not an not an expensive thing to do that.
Right.
Um, but I definitely think with the history, just the energy that was there over those 11 years, it's got to be haunted. I mean, things don't, that energy just doesn't dissipate.
Right.
So,
Well, and it's interesting too, and the murder weapon, the stiletto was discovered and brought into the museum. That certainly has opportunity.
hmm
And I do want to point this comment out from Bert. So all I have to do is get rid of the murder weapon. No, sir, no.
doesn't
Don't
work that way.
no. Just know all of it, whatever that is. Um, I'm sure your lovely wife is poking you in the ribs while you're typing, so she should just with
So,
an elbow. Um, the other thing, and this is kind of funny. Let me go back up here a little bit. Um, Alex chimed in that when you're talking about the stage hands and all, that those poor stage hands are still working after death.
yeah.
They're being visible, it's being seen, and the work never ends. That's why, it's a thankless job. So,
hmm
um, but again, we talked about theaters, right? Let's go to the performance side of it, from the stage end. We talked about this before. We were at the Clifton, the
hmm
Fulton, a couple of the theaters we've done. Hopefully next year we get to the Ritz in Jersey.
hmm
But theater people have passion to do the performances, whatever it is they're doing, whether it be music, whether it be a comedy act, whether it be a stage show of some kind,
uh,
magicians, whatnot. Time and energy is invested to learn their trade and craft and to practice it and perfect it. And that brings passion and energy, and when that certainly can create opportunity for the
right.
paranormal. Um, a catastrophic failure of metal plates, and a sudden death could create an opportunity for a haunting as well.
Uh-huh.
And it's all of that. Makes me think that there's still. I'm of the opinion there certainly should be something happening here. Based on
Right.
the sheer volume of violence, the sheer volume of energy that came through this place on a daily basis. This was a 7-day also operation, and I assume they had to close at some point. But I wouldn't be surprised if, like through the weekends, when the mines were shut down, if there was a window like that,
Right.
that there would have been a peak time that they wouldn't have closed at all.
It
And
was the research said they were open 24 hours a day.
there you go.
7
Okay,
days a
that
week.
doesn't surprise me, really. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. So,
I'm thinking like we have labor laws now, so
right.
they didn't have those either.
Not back then. Yeah.
No OSHA. I mean, gosh,
No mining safety, no, like,
nothing.
and that,
Yeah.
you
Well, they
know,
had canaries, right? Come on.
true. I mean, but that, think if you had a close call in the mine, where would the first place you're going to go be?
Yeah.
Someplace like
Well,
this to have a drink and,
well, to tell the story of it too,
hmm
right? And that's the fantastical stuff. Like, oh my gosh, can you believe what happened to me today? Like you got to blab it,
right.
and then that's when someone gets you the drink,
Right.
right? Because you need it, you deserve it.
hmm
So I don't know.
So yeah, I definitely think there's stuff going on here. So,
Yeah, and Arizona is such a unique area out there. It's high desert, so you've got a lot of things, like I said earlier, about being preserved, but you've also got a lot of it's native land
mhm,
originally. And I think the interesting part at the beginning of the tale was the consideration of the Apache tribes. They were not happy that we were coming, right, as
yeah.
white people. And they fought back against the colonization and spread of the settlements for a very long time. And in that, there certainly would have been violence to happen to create more opportunity on
hmm
both sides. We certainly are not innocent. Um, in the expansion, we just didn't move in, and everybody kept moving along. There was a lot of
Right.
fighting, a lot of violence toward the native tribes. It's just there's so much going on there that it has to be something with paranormal. So I say
hmm
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're both on the same page on this one.
Yeah, it's a good topic. Thank you. That's really cool.
So, yeah. And I'm sure there's many more out there that we could, I mean, there's probably 3 stories in that town itself that we could cover, if not more.
Yeah, most likely more like a detailed story. Yep.
So,
Well, if you need a story, I want to circle back a little bit too. This came in a little while ago from Erica. The next show you guys do should be on these mysterious drones flying over New Jersey right now. Did you hear about this, Chad?
I have not.
So I heard something on the news the other day. So it's a legit thing. But for the last several days, even last week, there have been flocks, if you will. I don't know what a bunch of drones are called, so I'm going to call them a flock, but a flight of drones with lights and all kinds of stuff, and some mysterious fixed-wing aircraft have been kind of seen all over New Jersey. Nobody really knows what they are, what's going on. I mean, it's clearly drones, though, so we're not going UFOs or UAPs.
Right.
But who's launching them? What are they doing? Here, we could throw a whole bunch of conspiracy theories here, right? Have some fun with it. But there's something going on, and it's noted on the CBS Evening News, Fox News, Newsweek has articles on it, USA Today. So it's been covered
Wow.
really well in the mass media. So I don't know. Somebody knows something. NBC covered it. So if anybody knows anything, drop us a line.
Yeah. Anything else on this one, Jamie, or should we?
I don't. It's a really good topic, like I said. So I'm really happy, and it brought back a lot of fun memories of being in New Mexico and Arizona, all the way through the Southwest all those years ago. So,
but if you go, take proper clothing, not.
Yes, yeah. I mean, or just be aware of the environment. In the summer, all through the summer, I wouldn't have even had jeans. I would have been shorts and a t-shirt and flip flops,
Right.
or something of that open toe shoe, sandal, whatever you want to call it. Even in the middle of the summer, it won't get that cold. But as we were in the fall and heading into winter, it was. I was not thinking ahead.
Okay. Well,
lesson learned.
Keep that in mind. Yeah. So. All right. Well, let's move on to what we're going to be talking about next week.
Yeah, so we're going to go back to an episode last year in our first season where we did urban legends. Gosh, I just drew a blank. Urban legends here in the United States or all the way around the country, a whole bunch of different ones. So I was looking at stuff for a topic, and I realized that there's, we can revisit this because, again, paranormal has very few walls around it, right? There's a lot of stuff, and I realized there are a whole lot of these as well around the world. So we're going to do the international edition. And that's where the logo, the international, drops on and bounces and like boom, boom, boom. So we're not going to do that.
You're asking for a lot there, Jamie.
I'm not asking for a lot.
I got the rubber.
I'm not asking you to do it, but it'd be cool if you could.
I got the rubber stamp thing here, so that's.
I guess I should count as a win. So we're going to have some fun with a bunch of those from around the world next week, and then after that, a couple episodes still this year. We're going to do. Chad's going to cover on the 17th the Christmas hauntings around the world. So not the same as urban legends, but hauntings a little different. We alluded to this last week, but we are going to take a break over the holidays and try to recalibrate, recharge a little bit. So there will not be an episode on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. I believe we'll put up some past episodes those 2 weeks to fill the void. But we'll come back strong on January 7th, and I'm going to tackle The Woman of the Rain, which is a mysterious painting that has been bought and sold many, many times. And every time it's bought, it's returned because some crazy stuff happens to the buyer and the home they're in. So quite fun topic there. I am going to try to pronounce January 14th. I'll let you do that one.
I believe it's Holdefolk.
Did you just say a dirty word?
No. I don't think so.
You just curse at me? What? Hold the phone. What? And then January 21st, actually, we're gonna slide back one on the Philadelphia experiment. 21st is going to be Robert the Doll, a very prominent haunted paranormal object that now resides in Florida. So has been residing in Florida for quite a few years. So we'll have some fun with that. And then the 28th of January will be the Philadelphia experiment. That's going to be a pretty fun one. That's an interesting one that I've done some research on in a different place. So cool to see what you bring into that. So some stuff coming up over the next month or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then upcoming events for us, we still don't have our 2025 calendar set yet for the public opportunities at Booby's Brewery. So our last event of this year will be coming up this Saturday evening, December 7th, Booby's Brewery in Mount Joy, PA. If you're anywhere in the area, you're welcome to come on by and join us. There's tickets still available.
Hmm.
You can find them at boobiesbrewery.com. And if you don't come for yourself, come and get a ticket for an event in the future as a Christmas present. So you got
Right.
spooky friends. This is a great gift idea. And
Or if you're really itching and we don't have anything on the calendar yet, you can always book a private.
that's true. We
Hmm.
can help and have the place to yourself for an evening.
Yep.
Um,
Or
you
we
know,
can come
and
join you if you really want us to. However you want to do it.
yeah, we got nothing else to do, right? In a good way.
Yeah.
I've said this before, and I will say it again and again and again. Mount Joy is more fun when you sleep over as well. So there are
Uh-huh.
accommodations at the brewery and across the street at the Malt Baron Mansion, so you can actually literally stay on the property
Yep.
and investigate and just fall into bed whenever you want to. So
Yep.
it's pretty exciting.
And from what I understand, there's some pretty interesting stuff that happens over at that Malt Baron house. So,
Yeah, we've had some with our spectacular event. Some of our guests stayed there. Todd and Carmela and Ron and Laura stayed there and shared some interesting stuff with us after. So yeah, we got to get in there, And the
mhm,
problem is it's always booked, so we don't. Nobody wants us walking around and saying, "Can you hear me now?" or "Can you make a noise?" At 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning when you're trying to
it
sleep.
doesn't go over
So
well.
doesn't go well, right? Security, right? So we want to be allowed to go back. So we're going to wait and do it when it's available to us.
Yep.
Um, and then, the usual ways to find us. You're here now with us on Facebook, and we're live, as you can tell, as we're bumbling, stumbling, and fumbling through all of this, and YouTube as well as live tonight. But they're going to be all these episodes. All of our episodes are available on all the streaming services: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, and a bunch more. But also, if you're interested, we have a TikTok page, we have a Instagram account. You can find us all of those places as well as some content, some other ways to connect with us. Give us a like, give us a follow at Jott-Nyx Paranormal. And if you have a topic for us or something you want to share, feel free to shoot us an email at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com. We have always been able to fit in viewer requests really easily. We have a schedule. You saw that, but we're flexible,
Hmm.
and we don't want to make folks wait forever to see or hear something that's of interest to them. Or if you have any comments about our episodes, drop us a line as well and just say, "Hey, that was pretty cool," or "You're full of bunk." Um, Whatever that episode Chad said we were doing, hold the phone, hold the phone. We call it that from now on.
You just don't
Um,
want to swear. That's it.
I don't want to have to say it. No, hey, look, you wouldn't say Hoya Bakio, so I'm just going to hold you to it. I'm going to play the card.
All right.
And speaking of going back a second to the streaming, we're gonna this episode is going to drop onto all those services tomorrow, sometime in the early afternoon, late morning, whatnot.
Hmm.
With that, if you want to go back through the catalog, there's 83 episodes available. So, but I want to highlight one of them. So last year, right at this window of time, actually this week last year, we did an episode on Krampus, and Thursday evening is Krampus night. So yeah, I noticed I was looking through our demographics and our information, Chad. And that episode has been viewed 24 times
Yep, I've noticed that.
as our top review. So it's out there. It's hopefully you find as much fun as I had doing it. But go out and celebrate Krampus on Thursday night, and just be safe. Obviously,
Uh-huh.
anything stupid. Do not call us for bail if you do. Um, we're poor podcasters and paranormal investigators, but certainly it's that time of season with Krampus and all, and a lot of other things. So, but yeah, and thanks for your support, folks. We certainly wouldn't be doing this without you. We can and do sit around and talk a lot about stuff, and it certainly wouldn't be as much fun without your engagement and support, knowing that folks are with us. So, want to say special thanks to our families for supporting us as well, letting us do this, because it is a time taker for a lot of things and things we could be doing elsewise. My honey-do list is getting long, Chad. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
really?
Um,
Hmm.
so I'll get there eventually. But
Yep.
we're having a lot of fun with this, and we really appreciate y'all coming along for the journey with us too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So
All right, sir. I'm good if you are.
yeah, I think that's it for tonight. So it's
All right.
a nice short episode.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Once in a while we do that. So
mhm. So
we got. You went a long one. We got to book Steve Dills, right? So
Yeah, we need to get him back on. We haven't talked to Steve for a while, so
He's storing up his stuff. That's why.
I'm sure. So, speaking of Steve, the Hanover Paracon's coming up at the
Yep.
end of, I believe, end of January, beginning of February.
Yeah,
So,
it's 31st and 1st, 31st of January, 1st of February. So it is really about 6 weeks out. Hanover, Virginia, right outside of Richmond. Anybody in the area or anybody willing to travel, it is a great opportunity.
hmm
The folks down there do such a great job. Steve is fantastic. If you catch up with us at all, you know he's done 2 episodes with us.
hmm
Skinwalker Ranch and then on the Hanover Tavern. High energy guy, just fun. And just he's got a lot of information, a lot of knowledge,
Yep.
years and years and years of experience, and just a
And
generally good dude.
yep.
So
And the tavern has a theater in it, so there's some energy there. It goes back to when it was a tavern on the road. The road that went down to Richmond. It's
yep,
just great. And our friends Ron and Lourdes will be there.
yeah,
So
that's true.
yep.
Satacom will be there and doing demonstrations, and a lot of other great guests and speakers, and of course vendors and all kinds of fun stuff. So, and you get to investigate the tavern too,
hmm
part of the ticketed price. So, give them a look. We'll put the link up next week to see if anybody's interested. And of course, help support the paranormal field.
Yep. So all right. Well, on that note, Jamie, thank you for hanging in there with me. So, um, and I was trying something new. The people on the other side couldn't see it, but I was trying something new tonight with some of the tools in our toolbox with this streaming service, and it seemed to work out okay.
Yeah,
So,
this is pretty exciting. So we switched services a couple months ago, I guess now, probably 2 months ago, and with that, how new things go, you're always trying to make sure it works right, and um, we're much happier where we are now than where we were then. So yeah, good job,
so
seamless.
yep. All right. Well,
Perfect.
on that note, I will see you and everybody else next Tuesday, if not before. Oh wait, no, we have an investigation this weekend, so
We
I will
do.
see
I will see you Saturday.
Saturday. Exactly. So, all right. Well, if you can join us Saturday. If not, we will see you next Tuesday. All right.
Perfect. Good night.
All right. Good night, everybody.